Got some news in which we're going to focus on for the moment about the number of primary school places that are needed or are vacant, or the pupils required to fill them, if you see what I mean. Got some new data in from the National Foundation of Educational Research saying primary school numbers are falling. That's particularly the case in London. Well, let's talk to Jude Hillary, co-head of UK Policy and Practice at that foundation. Jude, good morning. Welcome to the coverage.
Good morning.
Is it just that people are having fewer kids?
Well, it's linked to falling birth rates. The biggest driver of pupil numbers falling is down to falling birth rates, yes.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So that's just a thing which I guess the education system has to navigate from time to time.
Certainly, yes. Falling birth rates 5 years ago or so will feed into primary pupil numbers now, and obviously later as it feeds through into secondary school. So,
how dramatic is the difference that you're recording?
Well, to date, this is based on DFE data in terms of pupil numbers. To date, the national fall has been quite modest since 2018. It's been about 70,000 across England. However, we've seen much larger falls in London. Primary pupil numbers in London fallen about 50,000, which is about 7%. And this is particularly the case in inner London boroughs where the falls have been larger than 7%, which is putting lots of schools in these areas under significant strain.
Strain why, though? Sorry, if there are fewer kids, that means instead of having to teach 32, maybe I get to teach 25. That's a good thing, isn't it?
Well, indeed, we have seen average class sizes come down a little bit as a result of falling pupil numbers, which many of your listeners will know. Smaller class sizes tend to be associated with better outcomes, so that could be seen as a positive. But in the longer term, the impact will largely depend on how many schools will significantly need to reduce in size or close or merge even because of falling pupil numbers. And many families and parents will have concerns about that, especially if their child is caught up in a reorganisation. So,
well, okay, just let's understand why that might be the case. In local authorities get paid, so to speak, or they allocate budgets according to the number of kids. So you're saying that some primaries will become economic to continue and they'll shut them, and the kids then have to get spread out to the other neighbouring ones. Is that how it works?
So basically, the main reason falling pupils matter is because it can lead to some schools getting less money.
Yes.
School funding is largely determined by the number of pupils in the school, so less pupils mean less money. So unless schools can reduce staff or cut other expenses, their outgoings aren't going to change, but their incoming is going to change. So, and it's not easy for schools to reduce staff. I mean, they can only really take out reduce a teacher when the whole class is when they're able to take out the whole class.
Yeah.
But
okay, I understand there's going to be some consequential reorganisation here, but I guess I'm saying, what's the problem? If we've got fewer kids, that is a break for overworked teachers, that they've got fewer kids to teach. So what do you identify as an issue with this phenomenon, Jude? What is your concern?
Well, the huge concern is actually for school budgets and school viability. If we look at specific areas in London where pupil numbers have fallen the most, in these areas, many of which are in London schools, numbers have fallen by more than 10% since 2018. And looking at the latest financial data, we find that 30% of LA maintained primary schools in those areas are in deficit. 30%. That's much larger than the national average, and we see schools going into deficit in these areas at a faster rate than other areas. And as I said earlier, the situation is going to get worse over the next 4 years. The pupil numbers are projected to fall by an additional 200,000, which means that more and more schools are going to end up in negative financial positions.
So there's going to have to have some consequential reorganisation, inevitably, isn't there? Jude Hillary, thank you. Co-head of UK Policy and Practice at the National Foundation for Educational Research. We'll keep an eye on that story. In fact, Bridget Phillipson is the Education Secretary. She's coming on stage at the Labour Party conference, 10:45. So we'll listen to what she has to say. She may well want to address that whole phenomenon of the shrinking in pupil numbers, certainly in some forms or some sets.